morning, friends. Sorry, I tried to go live a minute ago and couldn't get my document camera to turn on. So here I am. We will give it just a minute or two to have some people join. I'm going to wipe off my desk because I have paint all over it and it is distracting me. So there we go. That's a little better. Today we are going to play with Mooka, which is one of my absolute favorite tangles. So there's a lot of ways to do this. I didn't do a ton of examples for you this morning because I want to do them live, and I think that this is one of those patterns that is best to actually do live. You know, sometimes I will put a tangle out there and it's all about, you know, just giving you some new ideas, new ways to use it. But this is one of those that I think that it helps for me to show you how to draw it. Good morning, Kathy, Tammy, Alice, Melissa. So good to see everybody. I am going to set these off to the side, and we are going to, actually, you know what? We're going to talk about Mooka for a minute, actually. Mooka can be done in a couple of different ways. This is Mooka infurled, which means that it comes in on itself. And this is really the primary, and not so much the infurled, but this kind of pod shape is the way that you will most often see it drawn by a lot of the tangle communities. This is the way that Maria tends to draw hers. If you've ever watched any of Rick and Maria's videos, it is not the way I tend to draw mine. I tend to draw mine. Here's just one that I just drew as part of something else. This is I tend to draw my even my infurled. I tend to draw them with this ball. So I'm going to show both ways, and we'll go on from there. This is a layered and kind of I'm not really sure the word I'm looking for. I guess it looks like they're layered, they're overlapping each other. They're hollow-bod, and they are unfurled tangles. And this is the way I tend to draw them, with this fat little chubby little ball on the end. So I'm going to show you all of these ways to do them, and then we'll talk about some fun ways to use Mooka, and I'm going to probably do a little question and answer period, which is something I don't often do on lives, but I think with Mooka it might be helpful, so we'll go from there. Oh, Alice, I'm glad you got the pencils. I really like them too, so I'm glad to hear that you liked them as well. All right, let's see. Quick little announcement. I am going to be doing a free Zentangle class next Friday evening. It is going to be a tangled snowflake from 7 to 9 Eastern. If you are interested, I will post a sign up for it. I'm not going to limit the number of people that I have, so it probably will be a very full class. So please let me know if you are going to be coming. I will post that information on my page, so it won't be in this video or on this video link. It'll be a separate link on the page, so just so everybody knows. All right, with that said, I'm going to grab a tile. I'm going to grab a pen, and I'm going to make sure it's the right pen, because last night I was tangling and I used up the last of the tip on one of my pens, and then I did not throw it out. Haha, there we go, success. All right, so I have my pen, I have my, I don't want my 9, let's see. My favorite of these is my 5, and I can never find it because I grab it and wander off with it. I think I'll just use my 7. So this is a 7. It is a little heavier on the graphite, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to start with my dots. So I'll make my little dots. I like to take my deep breaths as I make my dots and as I make my border. I like to breathe in and out as I make these lines. It's always a good reminder. Tangling's so good for us. All right. Yes, Tammy, I will post on Whimsy by Kelly. It'll be on my Whimsy by Kelly Facebook page. I'll also probably post it over on Instagram as well. All right, so we're going to start with Mooka Unfurled. And that's the one, I think it kind of looks like mother and child. It can look like a heart. You can do a whole lot with this. But the key with Mooka Unfurled, and the way to remember it is in, because it's all inside, is that you are keeping everything enclosed. So I'm going to do this kind of big, like I did here. Okay. I tend to, when I draw Mooka, I almost always start in a corner just because I like the way it comes up. So I'm going to bring my pen up and I make kind of an arc. I bring it around, right? Bring it back on itself. And then I'm creating an aura on the inside. And I tend to like mine pretty skinny, but you can get a really different look by making that, you know, a much wider aura. I'm going to get down to the bottom, just slightly away from where I started. I'm going to come back out in the opposite direction, curl it in. I like to leave a little bit of a space, bring it up so I'm creating kind of like a little bubble at the end. And then bring it down. Okay. Now see, that spot's open. You can close it off if you want to, but I tend to usually just leave it open. At that point, you can come in if you'd like and go back in the same direction you started with. Okay. So the nice part with this is this can be done without ever breaking your lines, right? So I could do this without ever picking up my pen if I wanted to. Okay, so I'm gonna do another one. Come up, curve it. I always try to think of these kind of like a plant. So I'm doing this one without lifting my pen. So I just want you to see how I do that. And then I'll go over it more slowly again. Okay, so you can see how that's all just one shape together. Okay. So I'm going to do it again. I promised I'd do it again a little slow. So I'm going to come up. I'm going to create an arc. Right? So I've got this arc. And then I'm going to bring it around, swing it in, create, come back on itself. So it looks like a little tendril that's kind of curling around. I'm going to bring this back by creating an aura and following it around. Here, if you wanted to, you could stop, pick up your pen, if that's easier for you. Okay? Turn your tile a little if you want to. Come back, curve it in towards itself, curve it around, creating kind of this little pod, bringing it up, and then auraing that first line. Okay? Again, down at this bottom here, I could stop, I could leave it open like that, or I can come back in, and because I've done a third in each of these, I'm going to do it in this one as well. So I'm kind of come back up. I'm auraing this line until I get about here, and then I'm bringing it in on itself, right? Creating that little tendril, and then coming back. Okay, we'll do one more. Coming up, and these can go in any direction. I tend to draw them, you know, largely with my big hook going in one direction, but you can do it the other way if you want to. So there's my first one, right? Starting at this, I'm going to bring that in, create another little tendril, and then come up, another little tendril. So this is Mooka unfurled. Tammy, no, I'm not aiming at the middle. I'm just, I drew these bigger so that they would be large enough to see. You can do them in any size. You know, you can, sometimes I do teeny tiny ones, sometimes I do really big ones. With these, I just wanted you to practice making the shape. I wanted to make these larger because I wanted to show you some ways to shade these as well. You can, if you want to, you could come in and you could fill this in with more Mookas. You could aura around the outside like I did here, right? So that's what I'm going to do for this tile. I'm just going to aura around the outside of all my Mookas to make it a little fancier seeming, right? And that makes, you know, that kind of takes on a more complex look when you add more lines. And remember, it's okay if your tile doesn't look like mine. These are practice tiles. These are all about, you know, playing with the pattern and learning how to do this, right? And Mooka is one of those patterns that a lot of people struggle with. This is probably my most requested, how do you draw Mooka, is probably the things people ask me all the time. I didn't like Mooka at all when I first started tangling. I found it to be very, very challenging, and I found it to be very, very complicated, and it was not something that I had a lot of love for. And then I had someone else show me, and I still didn't like it. And then one day I started drawing it with these little balls, and it made more sense to me. And that's pretty much how I've drawn it ever since, unless I make a conscious effort to draw it like this. So, you know, obviously I'll come in and I'll do something fun with these aura shapes. There's a little one right in here too I can aura. Kind of a little three-sided, like little triangle there. If I wanted to, I could come in and I could aura the insides of these. I could put another Mooka in there. Your options are endless. So that's a basic Mooka unfurled. Now to shade this, and I'm only going to shade this one here for now, I pick a spot on my Mookas, which tends to be this neck of my Mooka, right here, where if you think about it like it's a snake, you know, a snake coming up, and this is a little snake head, you know, we'll pretend, we'll just draw. Here's his little face, right? I will erase his little face, but we'll just pretend this is his little face. So this is his neck, right? And right under here, kind of under his chin, I'm going to add a little graphite, and I'm going to do, you know, so then I would turn my tile and think about where my little snake face is. So right there. And right along here, because he's going to have a shadow there. And then if you've made these wider and you want to add a little shading, you know, somewhere down along his little snake body, you can certainly do that. Just try and keep it on the same side. So now before I blend this, I'm going to remove his little snake face. Although he's kind of cute. And I'm only using an eraser because I drew snake faces on my Mooka. If you drew snake faces on your Mooka and you like them there, you should keep them. Alright, so now I'm going to take my tortillon and I'm going to lightly soften this. And I'm going to bring it kind of curved around a little bit like I would any rounded piece that I do. And then I just lightly drag this down the one side. It helps if you have a newer tortillon or one that has a little bit more of a point if yours are skinny. Okay. It's really about softening and making this look rounded. And then just pulling that graphite down. Okay, so that is Mooka. That is our first Mooka. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to draw a Mooka unfurled. But before we do, because I know this one's can be a little confusing, does anyone have any questions before we move on to the next one? I will just have a sip of my tea while I wait for questions, because I know there's always a little bit of a lag. Okay. So, if there are any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll come back and I'll address them from there. Yes, Mooka is one you have to practice. You know, your lines are going to get smoother. You are going to get better at this. You're going to be happier with your results the more you practice it. Okay. So now I am going to do Mooka unfurled. Okay, so I've got a new tile. I'm going to put down my dots and make my border. Okay, and now I'm going to come up, pick up my pen. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a fairly simple one. We're not going to get crazy like this, but we're going to do a fairly simple one. I'm going to use the same pod shape right now. We'll get to making it with those big fat chunky orbs on the ends in a few minutes. So I'm going to come up. I'm going to make chubbier little stems this time. Tammy, yes, on the same sides of the loop. You can do it on both, but because I tend to do mine skinny, I do it on just one side. Alright, so again, I said I often start in the corner. It's just the way I like to draw it. You can start anywhere you'd like on your tile. We're going to start, and that first loop, that first arc is the same. Okay, so we've got this, and I'm making it a little fatter this time. Not huge, but I'm not making teeny tiny little skinny ones this time. Okay, so we've got that hook, that tendril, right? So now I'm going to come back. I'm going to start at that point, right? This one right here, and I'm going to bring this up and curve it just like I did last time, aiming towards this side, except I'm going to draw it all the way over. I'm going to pick up my pen because I don't want to draw over something that's already there. So using the hollow bob method, I'm going to draw to that line, pick up my pen, pretend I'm drawing over the top of it, put my pen back down on the other side, and continue drawing. I'm going to curve it in, make my little bulb there, and I'm going to bring it back and make an aura. I guess I didn't make these all that much fatter than I normally do. Okay. Excuse me. I choked on my tea, so that's not great. So I have these going in opposite directions now. Now I'm going to bring this one up. It can go. Now I like to alternate them, so they're going in different directions. So now this one's going to come up. It's going to be curving over here. But again, I want to use the hollow bob method. I can hit at any point. So I get here, I pick up my pen, put my pen back down, I continue. Uh-oh, I bumped into this one. So I'm going to do the same thing. Pick my pen up, continue kind of drawing in the air so I can see where it might land. I'm going to curve this in and make that little bulb, bring it back, and make my aura. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Mindy, yes, this will stay available on my Facebook page. You'll be able to find it either, they change the name for it all the time. It'll be under live or videos. So it'll be under one of the two. I also eventually get these put up over on my website, which is whimsybykelly.com, and I also post them on YouTube. All right. So, that is the basics of how to do Mooka unfurled. Okay, so this one's kind of busting out of itself. So it's layered. It's going in all different directions. I'm going to add another one here. So I'm going to bring this one up, right? It's going to crisscross here. I'm going to pick my pen up, and it's going to kind of finish here. And my little bulb is going to kind of end up tucked behind there. So I'm just going to give the impression of it and bring it back like this. And what I like about this one is you can kind of bring this in and touch it down to that other piece. For some reason, this one always seems more finished, more complete to me. Plus, it gives you all these cool crisscross, almost knotwork kind of little pieces, where you can do some cool shading, or you can, lay other tangles. You could put little orbs in here, kind of resting in these little spots, which is one of the things that I tend to do with this tangle. I like to come in, and I like to add, a little orb there, maybe one there, a couple in here, just kind of like little dewdrops. Okay, just as a little enhancer. So that's how you draw this one, the way I tend to shade this. So again, keeping in mind the way I shaded this one, we're going to use that basic premise. So I'm going to add some graphite on my little snake necks, right? And I'm going to soften that. I'm going to kind of pull it down lightly again, right? Like I said, on the same side. These are a little chubbier, so I have a little bit more room, but not very much so. So I planned on doing them a little bigger, and I just didn't. But now I have these fun, interesting little overlaps, right? So I really want to accent those. Okay, so I'm going to come in with my graphite, and I am going to add anywhere it kind of crosses, I'm going to add just a little line of graphite. So basically think about where you've got your overlaps, where things look like they're, see, I forgot this one. There we go. We'll soften that up. That looks better. So right here, it looks like it's overlapping, so I'm just adding a little bit of graphite in each of those spots. And then I'm going to soften that. Okay, and that's going to give me a shadow. Where I overlap. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to everybody. So now we have our Mooka infurled and we have our Mooka unfurled. Tammy, I said before, I'm using my 07. You can use, it's HB lead, so this is just a thicker lead. You can use whatever you like best. I strongly encourage you to use tools that you like. If you're using something really light, you can just do multiple layers to get a darker shade. Okay. All right. So I want to show you how to do these with the little balls. And you can do infurled or unfurled. I'm going to do this, right now I'm going to do it with my infurled, and I'm going to kind of tuck them together, okay? So this time I'll start in the middle, and this is going to kind of be a macro. This one's pretty close to a macro too, it's just really one Mooka. I'm going to come up, and I'm going to try and fill as much of my tile as I can. So I'm curving around, right? And it's almost like a spiral. So I bring it in till I have, it's like a spiral. So I have this big bulbous orb on the end. And by making that spiral like that, I can now reverse my pen, come back, and I tend to do these really skinny little tendrils. And turn your tile as you go to make it more comfortable and to make your line smoother. Right, whatever works for you. Okay, and now I'm going to curve this in. And I didn't go all the way over to the other side here. I'm making my spiral right here because I want these kind of tucked next to each other. Okay. You can do hearts, you can do all kinds of other things. I wanted to use this one kind of as an example. You can see how I filled this in with another tangle and how I accented it with, flux here on the side. So there's all kinds of little fun things that you can do here. I could stop with the 2. I could, oftentimes, you think about it getting smaller as you go, but I can come up here, right? And I can actually fit another one in that's actually rounder and higher than that one. So that is still infurled. Okay. I had to do my Mookas with these big giant orbs at the end in order to make sense of it. This was what worked for me in learning how to draw Mooka. It may work for you. You might do better with the snakes. I encourage you to practice with both and to really see what which way speaks to you. I'm going to do some more of this. I'm going to do it in unfurled now. Okay, so I'm going to come up. I'm going to create my little spiral. my skinny little line, my skinny little aura all the way around. I like doing unfurled for this a lot. I tend to do that more than the infurled, honestly, because I like the wild freedom that I get with it. I can come up anywhere I want. So this one's almost straight, right? And then I'm going to pick my pen up, I'm going to move it, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to bring this one, if I can do it, I'm going to bring this one all the way out here, and then I'm going to create a spiral. And then I'm going to bring it back. Right? And now I could curve it back and go in this direction. I can bring it actually up here. I can bring this one up here. Because they can really, as I said, go in any direction when you're doing the unfurled. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I would shade this exactly the same way as I shaded this one. I'm going to come back and show you the shading for the big orb on this one in a minute. But you know, so I would shade this orb part the way that I would shade an orb. I would add and then I would add my little overlaps. So, and then I will do, obviously I'll do some more tangling or whatever in the negative spaces, however I choose to play with it, right? So there's that. Let's see. The shading for these orbs, right? Again, so here's one. So here's my little face, right? So I am going to add my shading right there, again, where they kind of connect, right? But because these are orbs, I'm also going to add some shading on the opposite side. So, you know, just the way that you would shade your orbs. So I kind of have something, if this was the face of a clock, I kind of go about halfway, and then I kind of balance it on the other side. And then I'm just, and I went pretty heavy with my graphite on this because I want you to really be able to see it. But I don't usually go this heavy. That's better. So I've got kind of this shaded orb, and then you can shade along your little tendrils as well. I tend to always shade on the same side, but if yours are thick enough, you can shade on both. If you know, if this looks really dark, you can add in some spots of darker shading, which I find balances it nicely. There you go. So that is that one. Let's see. Favorite tangles I like to use with it. I use it with everything. I like to use it with flux. I like to use it with halaba. I like to use it with orbs. I use orbs with it all the time. Let's see. Let's look. Mooka. Mooka with Rixty is one of my favorites. I love, love, love to use Mooka with Rixty because it is a great way to finish off your Rixties. Let's see. Here is a bunch of just kind of really big loopy Mookas. Anything organic. So this is some Diva Dance roses, some sprinkle, some poke root, and some poke leaf. You can see here I used it with some grid tangles. So really, here I used it. This is a good example of where I used tangles in my negative space. So where I aura'd, here I went in and I created more auras, and then I put in some striping, which really changes up the look of Mooka, right? So those are a few different ways to use it. And then of course, here I am again with more Mookas and more flux and orbs. It's, you know, it is and it isn't. The tangle itself, it's very round. It's very flowy. It requires practice. It is one that, like I said, I didn't love at first. But once I did, I really fell in love with it, and I use it so much. It is the one that I get asked probably the most often how I do it. So I encourage you, you know, if you are struggling with it, to just watch over and over and over again, and to honestly spend some time making this shape or this shape, right? You can always add in the other tendril going in different directions, right? So, but start practicing that initial sweep, because once you make that initial sweep over and over and over, and I mean it, it's, you know, it's practice. It gets smoother over time the more you do it. Okay. My little book, this was actually a gift from a friend. I actually filled this up last year while my son was in the hospital. My friend Yvonne Westover, who some of you may know, she's a CZT who lives not far from me, gave me this little book. I'm not sure where she got it, but I like it a lot. It's a nice size. I encourage you to find little books, things like that, that you can keep with you so that you can practice a lot. I'm not sure what you mean for closed, Tammy. Email me a picture of your tile and I can give you some feedback later. I don't really have a lot of issues with my graphite smearing too much, Mary. Obviously it does sometimes, but if it's something, you know, you can spray it with a fixative, you can put tissue between it, but most of the time it doesn't really smudge off too much. Using the tortillon helps with that. Let's see. So I wanted to talk about a couple things you can do with Mooka, just as some fun stuff. I'm not going to get into too many different variations because it is we've already gotten to it's already 12:15 and it's later than I normally keep you on Saturdays. So I am going to show you how to make it look like a heart. And I want to talk about, I think I'm going to do a second Mooka video. Maybe I'll do it next week. And we will dive into some of the different variations where you can make it look cubist or do it, you know, so it's squared, things like that. I'm not sure. If not, maybe I'll just pop it up one of these days. All right, but the way I like to make it look like a heart is I like to bring it over. I add my ball, and then I bring it back. And then I turn my tile and I bring it up so that they kind of nestle together. And this isn't the best one. Sometimes I do a better job with it, making them look like a heart. But you can see I've kind of got that little heart idea going on there. So let me do that again. So bring it like this. And they tend to be more even, right? So there we go. That's better, so that they kind of nestle together. They're great for corners, for little edges. Trying to read your comments here. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by closed. None of my stuff is actually closed. If you notice my little circles here, they never actually, it's not a full circle. It's just kind of like a half orb. And then down here, these are always open, unless you stack something in them, which is why I tend to do stuff like add little orbs in there, because I don't like that open look myself. But I'm really not quite sure what I mean. But that's Mooka. You can use it as a border, you can use it to make flowers, you can use it to make hearts. I love mixing it in with my organics. There's a lot of different fun things to do with this. I hope you do practice. This is definitely a practice tangle, and it is a focus tangle, which means it is one that's going to require your attention more so than some of the others. I said I'd do a little bit of Q&A, and then we are going to wrap for today, just because otherwise I would keep you here all afternoon, and I try not to do that on Saturday mornings. I do have my calendar coming out this weekend. It's going to have my classes for the next 3 months in it. I'm going to be offering a Zentangle exploration series, which will include everything from the most basic Zentangle class to stuff on morphing tangles and shading and all kinds of fun stuff. So if that's something that you are interested in, the calendar should be coming out this weekend. It does make a great Christmas gift if you wanted to tell somebody about it. And those will be starting in January. So I hope you enjoyed this little demo today. I do these every Saturday morning, and I hope to see you back again soon. If you do have any questions and I didn't get to them, please pop them in the comments, and I will try and get back to them. Tammy, I know you said you weren't happy with yours, that they didn't look closed, and I'm just not quite sure what you mean. But you can email me a picture of yours at whimsybykelly@gmail.com, and I'll take a look and I'll let you know what I think. Tortillons last however long you use them for. They're not very expensive. It's a couple dollars for like 6 or 12 of them. I do have a sandpaper block. You can use an emery board too. When they get really dirty, like this one's pretty dirty and I was using color with it. So I will take a sandpaper block and I will sand it off on the edge. You can use a paper clip to poke out the top, the tip if it gets smushed. The length of time you can use it varies depending on how hard you press. So I can't really give you an answer for that. I try not to skimp on my tortillons. I clean them up. You know, if it's got a lot of graphite on it, you can scribble off on the back and get rid of some of your color or your graphite, and then use your sandpaper, like I said, or an emery board. But I find that if I keep them too long, they're not a lot of use to me. I have a million of them, as you can see, all over my desk. So when it starts to be difficult and it's hindering your work, change it. Just change it up. And you can get them at any art supply store. So they're actually not too hard to get your hands on. All right, so everybody have a great day, and I will see you all next week, if not sooner. And remember, I am doing that freebie snowflake class next Friday, if you weren't here to hear me say that. The post on that will go up this afternoon, and it's going to be, I'm going to make it a Facebook event with the link and everything in it. It won't be done on Facebook. It's going to be a Zoom class. So you will need to sign up for it. All right, everybody have a great